to be live streaming the meeting, and you can watch. I've got a slide where we've got the link to it. You can live stream it now if you're doing that, or watch the recording later. I think we're going to be watching the live stream later with I promised my dad he could watch. So the meeting focus today is going to be on increasing opportunities for economic independence. So the ARHOME program is focused on health improvements, and as a part of improving health, that also includes the improving the economic independence of individuals. And so I think we need to go to the PowerPoint, the one big PowerPoint that we have. But just as a reminder, the ARHOME, the legislation that created ARHOME was Act 410 of 2021, and one of the legislative intents listed in that legislation was that ARHOME was intended to be a program that increases opportunities for full-time work and attainment of economic independence, especially for certain young adults, to reduce long-term poverty that's associated with additional risk for disease and premature death. So that's a central tenet in the ARHOME program, and was written into the legislation.
And now, while we're waiting on the PowerPoint, just
Yes.
to contrast that a little bit with the opportunities for success, that is more focused on underemployed and unemployed. And so it's full-time employment, but it's also targeting those who are already employed, maybe in a part-time or a lower level capacity, lower paying job capacity. And I think we are up and running now.
Okay. So you can once you get there, you can skip a couple of slides because I've already gone over those. You can go to the next slide if you can. While we're getting to the slide, I think it's slide 3. The quarterly report. It is a statutorily required report. It's in the act that I just referenced, which was Act 410 of 2021. And the requirements are that the quarterly report include it includes the information on eligibility and enrollment, health insurer participation, premiums and cost sharing reduction costs, and utilization, and some other items. So all of that is in that report that should be at your desk now. And I'm not going to go over all of that, but it's there and it's available for you. And like Secretary Putnam said, we will send that out electronically as well, and it'll be posted on our website. So I'm going to make a very brief quarterly report. And the first thing we'll talk about is the public health emergency unwind. So you may know that during the COVID public health emergency, the federal government provided enhanced federal Medicaid matching funds in exchange for state agreements to not disenroll beneficiaries except under the following circumstances: if they moved out of state, if they died, if they were incarcerated, or they requested to be disenrolled. So we have that means that a lot of individuals who might have lost eligibility during the public health emergency remained on our Medicaid rolls, and we are now undergoing the end of that public health emergency. So we'll be disenrolling individuals, redetermining eligibility for those individuals, and disenrolling those who are no longer eligible. That started in April, and Act 780 of 2021 from the Arkansas legislature requires that the public health emergency unwind be handled within 6 months. So we've set it up in phases. So starting in April, and it'll go through September to redetermine all the individuals who didn't have a redetermination during the public health emergency. So we underwent, thanks to many people at DHS, underwent a significant campaign, year-long campaign to make sure that individuals that we had the right address, because we were losing, since we weren't redetermining people's eligibility every year. We weren't sure that we had the right addresses for people who may have moved in the 3 years. So we began a big campaign to update people's addresses, and then to a campaign to have people renew before the redetermination process started. And we also have been sending lists of individuals to primary care providers, to our ARHOME insurance companies, to let them know these people are at risk of losing coverage. So please reach out to those individuals. Please encourage them to renew so they don't lose eligibility if they're still eligible. So those first disenrollments began April 1, and the ARHOME beneficiaries were among the first group in those phases to go through those redeterminations. Next slide. So in the first 2 months that we've disenrolled individuals after the PHE, we've disenrolled more than 140,000 people from Medicaid, and about 58,000 of those were ARHOME beneficiaries. Some of those beneficiaries will re-enroll once they realize they've lost their coverage. About 75% of the beneficiaries who are disenrolled were disenrolled either for not sending their renewal packet back in to us to renew, or for not providing additional information that DHS requested. So we are hoping that once people realize that they've lost coverage, if they're still eligible, they'll complete that paperwork and get it back into us and get back into Medicaid. So some of those people who have been disenrolled may have already moved on to employer-sponsored insurance or a marketplace plan, and some could be people who moved and we no longer have a working address for them to have received our notices. But the number of people who are disenrolling and re-enrolling is something that we are monitoring. We're also the insurance department is helping us monitor those who disenroll from Medicaid and re-enroll in a marketplace plan. And we've seen that's slow going at the moment, but we hope that will pick up. There's a little lag time in information. So. Next slide. And I should before we talk about Life 360 homes, I should say, I hope that Secretary Putnam and Janet Mann and Elizabeth Pittman and Dennis Smith will help me and jump in if there's anything that I'm missing, so that people don't have to watch a TV screen the whole time. And the PHE unwind has been a very big effort that I'm only a small part of. So the Life 360 Home program, this is a program where DHS contracts, it's an ARHOME program in our ARHOME waiver, and it's a program where we contract with hospitals to provide or contract to provide intensive care coordination, and that's an umbrella term that we're using, but to provide intensive care coordination to populations most at risk for long-term poverty. And there are 3 types of Life 360 homes. There's maternal, rural, and success. The maternal Life 360 home concept is to provide home visiting services to women with high-risk pregnancies. The Rural Life 360 Home is to provide care coordination services, help people navigate the medical system to individuals in rural areas with serious mental illness or substance use disorders. And the Success Life 360 Home is a program to help young adults with life skills and social related health needs. And this is for individuals who are former foster youth, formerly incarcerated, formerly in the juvenile justice system, or who are currently veterans, but it's individuals in their 20s. This is a new program for us where we've gotten approval from CMS to operate this program, and we are implementing the program now. We are taking, we're talking with hospitals and home visiting providers and community-based organizations to try and encourage them to apply. And we are pleased to say that we have received 8 letters of intent. That's the first step in the Life 360 Home application process, just a letter to say, hey, we'd like to apply. So we've received 8 of those from hospitals across the state. 7 of those are from Maternal Life 360 for Maternal Life 360 Home, and 1 is for Rural Life 360. And I will say we did have 1 hospital that withdrew their letter of intent, and that was for a Maternal Life 360 Home. So that's the first step in the application process. And then we've had 3 actual full applications from hospitals for Maternal Life 360 Home. The full application is the second step in the application process. And the third step is a readiness review. And we haven't done any of those yet. We have completed all of our systems work. So our billing system, all of the guts of making the program work. We've completed that for enrollment of the Life 360 Home, the hospitals, and for enrollment of beneficiaries. So one thing that we are waiting for approval from CMS is to allow women who are in Medicaid programs other than ARHOME to participate in the Maternal Life 360 Home. For all of the other Life 360 Home programs, the participants must be in the ARHOME program, but we wanted to open that Maternal Life 360 Home program up to any woman with a high-risk pregnancy in Medicaid. Next slide. We have asked Mike Rogers to be here. He is a very enthusiastic and knowledgeable individual, and I thought that it would be really great for this group, the ARHOME Advisory Panel, to hear about the work of the Governor's Workforce Cabinet. Obviously, Secretary Putnam knows can chime in as well. But the governor created the Governor's Workforce Cabinet. And we believe that the work that they are doing is integral to the work that we're doing with ARHOME, and particularly with our proposal, which you'll hear about a little later, the Opportunities for Success program. I don't think we could do it without the work that the Governor's Workforce Cabinet is doing. So Mike Rogers is the Governor's Chief Workforce Officer. He's worked as the Senior Director of Maintenance and Refrigeration for Tyson Foods and taught for many, many years in the Siloam Springs School District. He taught agriculture and industrial maintenance, and he has also served as the district's energy manager, and he is just a fantastic individual. And I think we can go to the next slide, and then Mr. Rogers, please take it away.
Thank you, Nell. Secretary Putnam, permission to be less formal. I see I'm not on leash, and so I'd like to stand up and see who I'm talking to, at least in part. Oh, even better. Wow. I know. I saw how efficient you were. I was wondering how you get all this stuff done. And at the same time, I realized we had 2 people starting at 10 and I'm already late. So Nell, you said enthusiastic. So I thought at least let's stand up and talk about kind of
the passion around what's happening in the state, because workforce is the best way to come off of Arkansas benefits. And to have that meaningful source of employment, not just validating the person's experience, but working in the way they were created and having the options to do things and to change their trajectory, to break cycles of poverty, substance abuse, incarceration, suicide, all the different things that a meaningful job and employment has to offer, and the state supports. I'm so excited about that. Trying to out something that even the workforce cabinet hadn't seen yet, but trying to identify a way that we can really show some process workflows. Process workflow is really kind of a manufacturing phrase about how do you remove bottlenecks and barriers and things in the system to resolve gaps and overlaps. So a process workflow, this is just kind of a standard slide that shows the 7 different agencies that are put into the workforce cabinet because they all have a component. No preferential treatment outside of alphabetical order. So you can kind of see where the different aspects fit, but there's a lot of overlap in duties, responsibilities. You know, if I talk about veterans, for example, there's a group that works with veterans in the commerce. There's a group that works with WIOA. And so having a lot of those synergies, and then of course, a lot of constituents and service providers may be coming through DHS for that. But as we look at the AEDC, and I just realized there's a typo. I'll have to fix that when I get back. Department of Workforce Services and Office of Skills Development all have a very direct, engaged role within developing workforce in terms of developing training. And that training, of course, comes in, you see, with corrections. And I'm so surprised by some stuff I'm learning. I don't know anything about DHS, I'll be honest with you, because I've never needed the services before. I'm kind of thankful that I've been in that position of not knowing, but then I realized, wow, for all of the different people who are in a spot where they do need assistance, that leg up and the intentionality of empowering Arkansans as opposed to entitling. And so grateful and thankful that those protocols are put into place in terms of that. But I see the same thing in corrections with it being, would you know, there's a high school program in prison. And I have to admit to you, I went to prison for 3 hours one day, and actually went to 3 prisons. And so I was in and out of Cummings and Varner and a couple of other temporary places. But to see these adults getting a second chance on life, things they'd missed, things they didn't know were even available. And so I saw some weld, some were doing electrical, some doing plumbing, some doing carpentry, a couple on simulators, developing some micro credentials and all the different things. And we've got to get to a place where, if you think about this workflow, I refer to it as receiving and shipping. And we've got to be able to ship our product better than we receive it. You know, I've commented this a lot, and some of you already heard me say it, but if we ship the product the way we received it, we'd go bankrupt as a company. If we ship the product worse than we received it, we get sued. And I think about each one of these workflows being its own manufacturing site, and are they coming out better than they came in? And how are we synergizing and developing these streamlined process workflows to really increase awareness, exposure, ease of navigation, completion, and taking some of the next level? So important, the workflow that comes out of the cabinet. So obviously you can keep going across there to see the different agencies that are there. But then I think about even the rest of the agencies that the governor has, and I'm even that you deal with workforce issues, agriculture, the tourism piece, hospitality. Who doesn't have some kind of workforce need in Arkansas? But up until the creation of this executive order, this cabinet, we didn't have any real strong connectivity, communication, collaboration, dreaming and scheming, and kind of looking at how do we make this thing work, because there's so many great resources out there. So a lot of different platforms in terms of how we're going to market. So a couple of examples I'll bring before I get to the technical portal and the IT side. But if it's veteran affairs, how do we develop a job for transitioning military that want to serve the country? They want to serve their next deployment. It might not be overseas. It might be in state working for a company that helps support those who are overseas. They already have a lot of security clearances. They have a very high level of cognitive thinking, the ability to follow a standard operating procedure. They have an MOS. And how do we translate that military job into a civilian job? And everything that I ask those questions, the answer is a portal that's being developed that will help make the connectivity across so we can have a translation of military to civilian. If you think about medics, truck drivers, those who work in the nuclear submarines that have boilers. I know hospitals need boiler operators. I know that the large facilities, the HVAC, all the different things that may translate to a job after they are transitioned to military. And we take the DD-214s and we get a file of them today. Every home residing address gets a DD-214 sent back, and somewhere it gets put, and we can't find enough people to do our jobs. And that's a problem. It's a problem that we can't make a match for people who are super qualified to do a job, who've been dislocated for some time, and we're not helping pick them up to a place where they can get organized and redeployed back to service. I find the same thing to be true in corrections. We typically aren't adding value to our brothers, our sisters, our aunts, our uncles. These folks that are incarcerated are someone's relatives, and we have set them up for defeat. Not only have we not given them technology that they're going to have to catch back up on. You know, I think about the 10 years I was outside of working in manufacturing, and it was during the time when the HMI, PLC, and VFD really launched big time in the integration of activities in manufacturing. And I was trying to play catch up because I'd been out 10 years. Not that I was behind bars, but I just hadn't been in that world, and I had a lot of catching up to do. So how do we really link our systems together where we can help advance? You know, I think about the monumental lift that Secretary Leva is doing right now. And I thought I did a lot of miles. I see him going to Heber Springs today, tomorrow, tonight, and all the different things that is coming into education. And we say education, you think 18 and under, but education should be forever. And that formal piece of the students who are fortunate enough to be enrolled in a school system today, monumental lift. But think about all the people that have already moved the tassel or didn't get a tassel and are out in workforce, and they have no way to add their value. They have no way to get ramped up, skilled up, and be trained to a point where they can be equitably employed to a point where they come off of the metrics that you measure here quarterly. That's the goal of the workforce cabinet. It's the collaboration, it's the thinking, it's how do we combine services? Hey, if I've got in corrections and I need to have maybe a DHS representative at a reentry point, or maybe I need a Arkansas Department of Workforce Services rep at a reentry point, how do we develop those kinds of synergies? How do we bring that to a high school student? How do we bring that in through labor and licensing, veteran affairs? There's so many ways of overlap. So the thing I want to kind of come back to, though, is one of the biggest digital solutions that we've identified, and some already great work that's been happening in Arkansas for a long time. And it's taken me some time to see some of the different pieces of it. But the conversations that we started with, there's been portals in the past that have linked job seeker to employment. And there's been a lot of different places that you can go, and I think it's almost true to say that it's somewhere on the internet. You can find everything, anything, somewhere. But the frustration that comes when you can't get to it. So we're developing a system, a strategy, a vision, and I'm not developing anything, but the group that is working through DIS to bring all the state's longitudinal data systems from all the agencies into one place. We're trying to find a system I've asked for what I call eHarmony meets Indeed, because I don't just match people job for job. I want to match them with culture to culture for a long-term relationship based on what both parties could be attracted to each other for. That's the eHarmony piece. How do you match make that? And at the same time, on another dimension, have what may look like Netflix meets Google Maps. I'm here. I want to be there. Well, based on the different ways of people from here to there. Here's the steps I could take to get there. I could go in through a learning management system. I can go to brick and mortar. I can do a virtual school. I can take micro credentialing. I can have a badge. I can get OJT, all the different ways from apprenticeship to short-term work. Outside might be some incumbent worker training, vendor training, all the different ways that we can come into one platform and with ease of entry, be able to identify myself. So I've got this phrase I call a digital twin. It's not a new phrase, but the way I'm using it is new. The digital twin in manufacturing is everything done in manufacturing center is operated from a control tower. Panels everywhere, HMIs. And I can see throughputs, I can see VFD ratings, I can go back with my yield and quality, and I have every metric that I need across this massive dashboard of monitors. But I don't want to make a change to that system while it's running because I might hit a snag and then I just miss my yield and throughput and quality. So the digital twin is like that. It's a digital version of the real thing that's working, but it's my control. I can go in and I can click and make changes and see what the outcomes are without damaging or upsetting the process and workflow. So my example would be, Mike can't go to 4,500 employers, but digital Mike can. If I could have a digital version of myself that would measure my IQ, we do that pretty good in education. If I could get a good measurement for my EQ, you know, the military uses the ASVAB to measure aptitude capabilities. If I had a way to take my experience and my capacity, resumes and cover letters and bring that into a piece, self-inventory of what I'm looking for. My fourth part of Mike's digital persona would be in demonstration of skills. I use example, last time you're pulled over, you're probably not asked for your driver's ed diploma. The officer may not care what you know. They care what you can demonstrate. And that license is portable, stackable. It can get you anywhere in the nation as long as it's up to date. So I demonstrate who I am. And the fifth piece is one that I've only recently added in the last 45 days. And I think it's very DHS-ish. I think it fits this area because it's my situational awareness. I have elder care to consider. It's a barrier for my employment. I have childcare, I have transportation. I don't have groceries. I don't have a place to live. I've got this deposit, this rent, I'm back behind. How do I manage all that? Plus maybe even rehab services or digital restrictions, learning restrictions. What's my situational identity that is temporary, possibly? If I had some assistance here, I could launch over, and that fifth part of who I am may change later on to enhance the other four. But how do I create this digital version of a job seeker and like that, match it to a digital version of a manufacturer or an employer and let them meet? Identify for Mike 4 or 5 places that the real person can go interview with a very high likelihood that there's going to be a good match, and I get employment. And then I take one step forward and keep moving. Those are the goals that we're trying to bring together in a way that would launch what has been given to the state as one of 6 states for a grant through Ripple Research Improving People's Lives. They have a product called Doors that one other state's currently using. The second's close is Colorado using it. I know Hawaii's got it. So they're right there with us. 6 more states are adding it. We're one of the 6. But the first time I sat down with Ripple, it took them about 30 days to process this crazy guy of what he's asking for. And then I got the next meeting, and the phrase was, I think Scott said, I see it. I see it. You know how hard it is for a visionary to have a conversation with a non-visionary? Takes a little time to marinate, takes a little time to process, a little bit of time to consider. And after all the things I asked for in a portal, they said, I see it. And even better than that is the back row says, I can do it. So we're building out a platform. It's going to take a long time to get it finished, if it's ever finished. But the initial part of it should be stood up in September for the largest employer in the state of Arkansas to use. And it's Arkansas, so that we can create pathways, we can create ways of people outside of the state being able to navigate into a job You know, we don't do a lot of self-marketing and awareness to different jobs. And of course, might have to talk about thawing out that freeze. But still, how do we post these jobs to a point where we can start getting folks knowing that there's a job that exists? I'd had no idea on career day that even was there. And then we're going to start releasing it out to different companies to do, I call it a POCA event. POCA is the Japanese word for error proofing. But how do we get really good, really quick so we can go to market and get job seekers, job employers coming together. And then based on different qualifications and digital personas, we'll be able to identify, will you qualify for SNAP benefits? Because you qualify for SNAP benefits, you may also be eligible for, and it starts to bring this place where I'm not putting in my name 20 different times to possibly get 3 different benefits. How do we make this as easy as getting a strawberry milkshake from Sonic on an app? 6 clicks, easy navigate, persona based in a way that drives our state's employability, and not just employability and placement, but also in Delta dollars. How do I make someone in a position where they can double their value for the same 40-hour work week? So those are some of the goals and missions of the Workforce Cabinet as we start to move forward. We've got to October to come together with a formal strategy and plan. I'm hoping that we have a product and not just a plan. I did read Oklahoma's plan. Oklahoma has a workforce plan, and I just got it 2 weeks ago. It's about a month and a half old. And by this time next year, they're going to hire me, apparently, or somebody like me. And that's a terrible plan. We need to have results. We've been talking about this too long in Arkansas. We need to get something done. And I'm excited to be a part of that. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I hope that maybe I talk a lot, so hopefully I'll say something.
Thank you. This level of energy is all the time for Mike, but I also just want to chime in and, I appreciate Secretary Oliva being here. Obviously appreciate Secretary Mallory. The Workforce Cabinet itself, though, is not where this conversation stops. The cabinet secretaries meet on a regular basis, but I will say to this group and any other group that we talk to about this is this workforce issue cannot be solved by government alone and shouldn't be. And so benefits cliffs are a real thing, but benefits cliffs have some federal restrictions with programs that need to be fixed at the federal level, and we can't wait for that. So there's a sense of urgency around the work that we're doing with workforce. ARHOME is a part of it. It's a significant part of it because it reaches people that we already know, that they're known to us. And so I appreciate the energy that Mike brings, giving you guys an overview of the Workforce Cabinet. So any other? All right, Mike, thank you. Nell, I think we turn it back to you at this point.
Well, and no one likes to follow Mike Rogers, but I will give it a go. I think we can move to the next slide. And so we're going to be talking about the Opportunities for Success initiative, the proposal that we've submitted to CMS. But I wanted to start with a little bit of context about what we know about our existing population. And I think you'll begin to see how the population that we're seeing fits in with what Mike Rogers is talking about, and that all fits in with the Opportunities for Success initiative. So I'm gonna, in the interest of time, I'm gonna kind of go through these fairly quickly. But next slide. So this was some information that we presented to the ARHOME advisory panel back in March of 2022. We gave an extract of our ARHOME population to the Division of Information Systems, DIS, which Mike just talked about. In terms of the statewide longitudinal data system, they've got data from all kinds of agencies and are able to match data together so we can see more about our existing population. And at the time this was the match, we had 56% of our home population who were employed, 24% who were enrolled in a workforce training program, and 8% who were enrolled in an Arkansas public post-secondary education program, and 61% overall were involved in at least one of those things, and possibly more than that. Next slide. There we go. So at the time that we presented that information to the ARHOME advisory panel, we got a lot of questions about educational attainment, what exact programs were individuals, workforce training programs were individuals involved in, and what were some of the barriers that individuals who are in workforce training programs were citing in terms of barriers to employment. So that is what we're presenting today. And again, this is a little bit of context leading up to that. This is our ARHOME enrollees by federal poverty level, and this is as of March 2023. You can see it's just we've got most of our not most. We've got almost half of our enrollees who are in the 0 to 20% FPL level. And just for a little bit of context, the federal poverty level for a single person is $14,580 or $30,000 for a family of 4. So 20% of that is $2,900 annually for a single person, or about $6,000 for a family of 4. So very, very, very low income. And this slide doesn't show it, but we've got about 40% of our beneficiaries have a dependent child, and about 54% of our enrollees are women. Next slide. This is ARHOME enrollees by age. Again, a little just context for the additional data match that the Division of Information Systems did for us. You can see it skews younger. We have nearly half of the ARHOME enrollees are under 35 years old. Next slide. This is not a slide that, or not information that we contributed, and I think Dr. Childers is on the meeting, and I hope she will chime in wherever she feels appropriate. This is the Division of Workforce Services, and it's a look at the skill level of jobs in the state versus the number of workers. So the jobs are the number of employees in jobs requiring the specific skill level that's at issue, and low skill requires a high school diploma or less, medium is an associate's degree or post-secondary degree, sorry, not up to a bachelor's degree, and then high is a bachelor's degree or higher. So you can see that we've got a disconnect between the jobs, the skill level for the jobs, and the employees, available employees. We have a number of people in the middle skilled middle skilled skill level, but lower numbers of jobs in the middle skill, and just the opposite in the low skill. Next slide. So with that in mind, this is what the Division of Information Systems did for us. They took our existing extract of ARHOME enrollees that we provided to them, and they have matched this with the known educational attainment. So this is only representing, we only had about 53% of our ARHOME population matched. So this is not the full ARHOME population, but this is only those that we found an Arkansas educational record to match to. So 87% of the ARHOME population for whom we have educational attainment data have less than an associate's degree. That's all the pink and red. The blue represent those with an associate's degree or higher. So we have, oh, and I should also say this represents the Arkansas record of education. So if somebody, say, graduated from high school in Texas and then moved to Arkansas, we don't have a match for that person. Or if, so that person wouldn't be appearing in this pie chart. But if a person graduated from high school in Arkansas and then moved to Texas and got a bachelor's degree and moved back to Arkansas, that person would be showing here as a high school. The highest education level would be high school, because that's what we know about. It's in our Arkansas records. So just a little bit of caveats with this data, but if we take it as a sample size, I think it's probably pretty representative that the vast majority of our clients have less than an associate's degree. Next slide. And I'm going to skip past this slide, but you'll have it. It's the same data, but broken out by age. Next slide. So this is our ARHOME enrollees who are in a workforce training program, a WIOA workforce training program. So we've got Title I, Title II, and Title III. Title I is adult job training and other services, including skills assessment. It's also dislocated workers, and it's youth up to age 24. So some of our younger clients, and the youth training programs provide counseling, tutoring, job training, mentoring, and work experience. Title II is adult education, and you can see we only had 62 matches there, so very little participation in adult education. And adult education includes English speakers of other languages, workplace education, and GED testing services. So it's adult education. And then Title III is the largest portion there, with 96% of the enrollees that DIS was able to match with, and that is includes its adult employment services, including skills assessment, placement assistance, and career and vocational counseling. Next slide. And again, I'm going to skip past this one. It's the same information, but by age. Next slide. So this is our SNAP data, so our food stamps information. We have about 12% of the ARHOME population is enrolled in the SNAP program. We also have there's a work requirement for SNAP individuals who are between 18 and 49 who don't have children, so we've got a program called SNAP ENT, where DHS contracts with providers to help individuals gain knowledge and skills to obtain and maintain employment by providing basic skills education, English as a second language, apprenticeships and internship training programs. So our SNAP ENT program, we just have about 1% of our ARHOME enrollees who are enrolled in a SNAP ENT program. And that's one thing that we expect to increase, and we also expect that our opportunities for success for all of these workforce training programs, we hope the Opportunities for Success initiative helps connect people to these workforce training programs. Next slide. This is, I'm going to go over this very quickly. This is just the barriers that individuals cite when they enroll into a workforce training program. And you can see these are just some of the barriers that they cited, some of the main ones for our population. And you can see that single parent is very high on the list for those who are enrolled in a workforce training program. Next slide. Okay, so we're now going to talk about our Opportunities for Success initiative, since we've mentioned it a number of times. And I'm going to introduce Dennis Smith, who's going to help me with this. Dennis Smith is the architect of the ARHOME program. He is the architect of the Life 360 Home program and the architect of this Opportunities for Success initiative. So we are very lucky to have gotten his expertise in developing this program. So next slide. So we submitted our proposal to CMS on June 1. We submitted it as an amendment to our existing ARHOME waiver. The plan will allow DHS to support engagement in work, education, and volunteering for ARHOME enrollees who are in a qualified health insurance plan. So these are people who are in a Blue Cross or a Centene plan rather than our fee-for-service plan. And so we are hoping to get approval from CMS sometime. And with that, we would like to begin implementation January 1 of 2024. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Dennis.
So, Nell, thank you for those very kind words. I don't know that I can live up to any of those, but again, it was a great team effort. It was a great team effort. Nell and Elizabeth, everybody really made huge contributions to this. So as Nell mentioned, the amendment to the waiver has been submitted. CMS has found it to be complete, which means they have now posted it on the CMS website for a national comment period to last 30 days. So any group in the United States can go on the CMS website, read through the application and submit comments to it. And I checked this morning and one has already been submitted. And I'm very happy to say that expansion of the Life 360 homes is on their list they are very enthusiastic about it. Less enthusiastic about other parts of it. I will be honest about that. But again, we're working through these comments. So it is out for the federal comment period. We will draft responses to that to CMS. But we're very pleased that the process has begun so quickly. Usually CMS takes a longer amount of time. The reason for this slide is rooted in that this is a section 1115 demonstration program. So it's under the Secretary of HHS's authority to whether or not to grant the waiver. And to do that, it must meet the objectives of the Medicaid program. So the poverty is a health risk factor. So again, those individuals who are experiencing poverty at or below the poverty level actually are at the greatest risk of long-term poor health and even a shortened life expectancy. So again, we are making the case that this is an important national demonstration because of the linkage between poverty and poor health. Next slide, please. So there are differences from our 2018-2019 proposal and experience. We learned from those experiences. We learned from the experiences of the individuals, of those individuals who were disenrolled from the program. What doesn't often get reported is how many actually, though, came back over time. We do know that a number of them did find private insurance through their employer or through the private health insurance market. The focus tends to be, well, they were disenrolled from Medicaid. The evaluation never took because of litigation. So every 1115 waiver has to be subjected to rigorous evaluation. So we have hypotheses built into the waiver, again, tied back to whether or not it meets the objective. So our approach this time, again, avoiding some of the real as well as perceived administrative burdens on this. So individuals, again, reported confusion about whether or not they needed to report, how to report, difficult. This time, the individual does we are targeting first the less than 20% of FPL population, considering them to be unemployed. Those between are underemployed, so they are working, but they're still below 80% of the poverty level. So they're working, but they are not working enough to be able to get to economic sustainability for themselves and for their families. And then those who are more full-time employed, above 80% of poverty, again, they have found their own pathway. And giving them time, they will find their own pathway off of the program. So we are focused on connecting the unemployed and underemployed to the health-related social needs. And oftentimes, again, the big ones are transportation. So again, Mike, I really enjoyed your presentation. One of the biggest barriers is getting to work. I can't get there. I don't have a car, or my car is broken down, et cetera. And in a rural state, transportation is a real issue of trying to get to the job board. Nutrition, the nutritional level of that family, and as Nell mentioned, a significant percentage of the ARHOME population does have dependent children. So childcare is another factor. Again, if you cannot get good childcare, that is going to be keeping that parent at home rather than going to the job or education or training as well. Housing also is a particular barrier, especially those who have some cognitive issues. So there are no reporting requirements on the beneficiary itself. And the other significant difference is if the individual declines the opportunities, and this is how we have now focused the program. We are going to offer individuals opportunities. The carriers are going to help in that respect. We're going to make people aware of the opportunities that are available at DWS and to get you on track. But over time, if those individuals simply decline that, we also then are building in the idea of connecting those individuals to what we call a success coach. So this is individuals who will work directly with the individual. Again, if people choose not to avail themselves of those opportunities, then they will still be Medicaid eligible, but then they are not engaged in their health or in their economic independence. So we will move them just back to Medicaid fee-for-service delivery system. So they're still eligible for all the Medicaid benefits, but they will be in fee-for-service rather than in the qualified health plans. We believe, again, this approach fits within the framework that the Biden administration has laid out for states. They have been very public about their vision for what states are encouraged to do in terms of addressing individuals' social determinants of health. So many of you are very familiar with social determinants of health. And now we are that's kind of at the macro level, that is kind of at the community level. But then individuals are health related social needs. So you'll hear both of those terms. So the administrator of CMS and the director of the Center for Medicaid has acknowledged the importance of how Medicaid can contribute to addressing health-related social needs, nutrition, homelessness, housing instability. So again, the way we have developed our approach this time, we do believe that this will fit in within the framework that the administration has already laid out. So the concept, again, the core of this is a success coach. These are individuals who will work specifically with individuals to provide what we call focused care coordination. And in the Life 360 homes, we have an intensive care coordination focus. But those individuals who are in those Life 360 homes, whether you are an expectant mom with a high-risk pregnancy or in the rural areas with the serious mental illness, those individuals require very intensive engagement, even on a daily basis. The individuals in the ARHOME population also need a level of care coordination, but not that as intensive. So the success coaches will screen individuals for their health-related social needs, identify barriers to employment, et cetera, connect them to available state and local resources. Again, we have had a number of presentations from Arkansas-based organizations and other organizations that have built platforms around identifying the needs. Identifying needs, though, do not really do much if you can't connect people to the resources. So you can identify Dennis as needing who has food insecurity, but if you can't connect me to the resources at the local level, again, it does very little good to say, well, 3 county over, there is a food bank, and if you can access that. Again, these have to be locally identified and available. So we are updating and Mary Franklin's group. Mary is the director of the Division of County Operations. Every county office has a local directory of resources, but they tend to be on paper. They don't always get updated on a regular basis. So we're working in those areas. And also on the governor's workforce cabinet on the data-driven web portal. And Mike did such an excellent job on that. I won't go into any further. So next slide, please. There is workforce development, and again, I think the changes and the transitions in these programs have really become accelerated in that buying into this notion of matching people's skill sets to the job. The employers themselves have shifted again from, what they often are looking for is first that college degree. Now they realize 75% of people in the workforce don't have a college degree. So why would you make that a requirement to get a job? And instead, now they are really focused on the skill set that individuals have. So again, why do we think this approach will work? Because of what we've already seen out there in research, in the literature, from the Department of Labor. There is a study on dislocated workers Again, people who had been assigned to this intensive job search assistance and counseling pays off. We know those earnings, in fact, do increase. Focusing again on local demand, and that when job training can really boost employment when it's directed at people who are more unlikely to find a job because they lacked marketable skills. Again, focusing on that job training. Social Security Administration did a supported employment demonstration for people with mental illness. Again, going back, well, why do you think why do you think these success coaches are going to work if these are new and haven't been tried before? But we have found proxies, we've found studies. Social Security Administration did a multi-year study. These are individuals who had a mental illness, and that mental illness was severe enough that they applied for disability insurance. So again, disability insurance under the Social Security Administration. Social Security looked at the pool of those people who had been denied. Say, yes, you have an underlying mental illness. You may have a level of depression. You may have something that is holding you back, but you do not meet the level of disability to qualify for disability insurance. So Social Security in this supported employment demonstration split individuals into 3 groups. They had a control group that received no additional assistance whatsoever. There was a second group that received some additional assistance. And then there was a third group with the most intensive amount of care, management, et cetera. And again, it works. Getting this intensive direction into people's lives increase those individuals' earning levels. They also, so the care management groups, both groups had higher average income, significantly higher rates of employment. And on the health side, actually was more likely to complete preventative healthcare visits. The next slide, I think I've basically covered, so let's skip over that about the unemployed, those below. And Mike touched on it, and many of you are very familiar. Public assistance programs, again, it's the way government has designed these programs. We design it with what is called a benefit cliff, or marginal tax rate, or a poverty trap, or a cash cliff. So again, this is not the concept of a benefit cliff is recognized by groups no matter where you are on the political spectrum. So this is conservative groups will write a bit about the benefit cliffs. More liberal or progressive groups also write about these benefit cliffs. So they acknowledge them because as you increase your income, you actually lose the public benefit. So your dollars can go up, but your benefits can go down, in which many people say, you know, it is sort of safer to stay on this side and to not take those additional hours that my employer is offering to me, because I could lose benefits. So again, the way we have designed this of talking about becoming a bridge, how do you get across that cliff? Our success homes, our success coaches are going to help engage individuals to understand that that benefit cliff is real. We're not denying it, but we also want to help educate people that is the short-term view of the situation. In the long term, again, as you look at your future of being able to have a long-term sustainability, not only for your health, but not only for yourself, but for your children and your family. So again, it has been estimated that childhood poverty. So again, while people are saying, well, you're looking only at that individual, and it's like, no, we're also looking at the family, and to be able to get to personal and family sustainability. Childhood poverty costs an estimated $1 trillion. That's 5% of our GDP annually. Every year, that's the estimated cost of child poverty. So again, this is something to say there is a future for yourself, for your children, that we want to help you to cross over that cliff. The underemployed, those between 21 and 80% FPL, will receive regular outreach. So again, we are trying to inform people about opportunities and to make them aware. And because of that cliff, if you have been, if you've remained enrolled in ARHOME for 24 months, we will offer you a success coach as well, because now we can see that long-term poverty settling into that family. So again, we want to be able to intervene. The employed group, these are between 81 and 138% of poverty. Again, many of these individuals will find their own way off without any further. They are finding their own opportunities. It's great. You just need time, and you will find your own pathway. However, again, if we are looking at you over time and we see that you have stayed on the program for 36 months, again, you are still, now at risk of that long-term poverty if you've stayed on for 3 years. So we're going to offer you a success coach as well. So this is an expansion of the Life 360 homes. Again, Nell has already reviewed the 3 types that we already had that were approved by the current administration. And again, we know that we already have support from the administration. So we have every reason to believe they will look favorably on expanding them as well. Right now, maternal women with high-risk pregnancies, and again, we're opening that up right now. Again, those are only the adult group that qualify for the expansion, under the expansion group. We are opening that up now to individuals who are in other eligibility categories, which could include, 17-year-olds who are on CHIP and become pregnant. We want them to have the value of home visitation. Our rural people who with serious mental illness, our success, we have a criteria though that limits them by age groups. So young adults, these are targeted to young adults 19 to 30. And again, as we have talked with hospitals, as we have learned, what are your needs? What does your community look like? Again, we have we've thought that age limitation actually could be a barrier, and we don't want that to be a barrier. So we will be amending. A part of the amendment is to raise that age to 59. So again, it would significantly expand the number of people who would be eligible. And as I said, I'm very pleased. I checked the website this morning. One group, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, wrote in they don't like and they oppose work requirements of any kind. Again, we still obviously have education to do of how this approach is different. But they're very enthusiastic about the Life 360 home. So pleased to get support for that. Elizabeth, Nell, points that I left out.
I
All right,
don't
back
have
to
any.
you then.
I'm just, you know, the one thing that I would like people to take away is this is not a work requirement. We are supporting employment and all of the social needs that go into supporting employment. So that's the way I see that this is very, very different.
Totally
Okay.
agree with that. And I think Dennis, Nell, thank you for giving us the overview. Looking forward to CMS interaction in the coming months. But we have some partners who are going to be helping us with some of these supported employment approaches and economic incentives. And our partners from Centene and Blue Cross Blue Shield are with us today to talk about their approaches so far. So we will turn it over to you guys.
And actually, but Secretary Putnam, before we turn it over to the carriers, let me just show just a couple of information, a bit of context. So if we could go to the next slide. So just to sort of set the stage for what they're going to talk about. We have requirements of the carriers to provide economic independence incentives to their beneficiaries. So the plans were required to offer one economic independence incentive in 2022, and they're required to offer two in the current year, 2023. And the incentive's purpose is to encourage advances in beneficiaries' economic status or employment prospects. The QHPs also need to include the activities that they're engaged in to support the Economic Independence Initiative in their annual strategic plans. And you will hear about their annual strategic plans in December. Next slide. So we wanted to provide you with some information, and they're going to give you more details about this, but we asked for them to tell us what incentive they were offering and how many beneficiaries in 2022 took up on that incentive and how much was awarded, what financial amount was awarded. And you can see we have 5 QHPs, 2 are Blue Cross plans and they're in blue, and 3 are Centene plans and they are in green. But the Blue Cross plans offered a kind of a high bar, very admirable goal to earn an Arkansas Career Readiness certificate and send that into Blue Cross for verification. They did not have a high uptake of that, perhaps due to the requirements for that career readiness certificate. And again, I think we've got Dr. Childers on the line if we need some help with describing that process. And then the Centene plans took a different approach. They allowed members to view videos on various financial topics to encourage savings, debt reduction, and smart purchasing choices. And once individuals watched the videos on their website, they would be awarded some My Health Pays dollars. This is a point system that Centene employs. You rack up points and you can use the money to purchase things at their online store or to turn into money to pay different healthcare related costs or monthly bills. And they had a larger uptake of those videos and larger amounts of dollars generated towards the incentive. So I'm going to leave it there and let the QHPs tell you a little bit more about their plan, and I'm not sure if we've got queued up the Blue Cross PowerPoint first, or if we've got the Centene PowerPoint.
While we're sorting that out, I just want to add real quickly. These are insurance plans. Incentivizing somebody to engage in work or employment, insurance companies don't do that, right? They're about the health side, and they know how to incentivize people, their providers and beneficiaries on the health side of things. But these are on the economic thing. So you're going to be hearing things that are unheard of outside of Arkansas. So, I mean, we are very grateful our partners have embraced this, and we knew and understood there was going to be a bit of experimentation, but they came along with us. And so I do want to thank them for that, and acknowledge this is not your typical line of business for an insurance company. So we really do appreciate their efforts. And we also knew that it was going to get better over time. So.
And I will say, this is the first year, 2022 is the first year that we had incentives. So this is the very first effort. And again, I agree. I thank the carriers for going on this journey with us. I think we've got Centene up first, and I believe it's Kim Suggs who's going to be here. So I leave it to her.
All right. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about our programs and incentive programs, both monetary and non-monetary. So all incentives don't actually have to result in a monetary reward. We have some other incentives that also encourage folks to get out and learn in the community. So we'll talk about both of those. Better? Okay. Next slide, please. All right, just a reminder, Nell alluded to this earlier. In the waiver, one of the several program goals is to provide incentives and supports to our home participants to help them move out of poverty, up the economic ladder toward independence. So as we were considering opportunities, and as Nell and Dennis alluded to, this is new for us. So we some is learning and developing and growing these programs. So this is really focused on 2022 and what we did there. Next slide. So we at Centene have a program branded as My Health Pays. This is our incentive program that does reward individuals for a lot of various things around their health. That may be incentives to eat right, incentives to move more, to be well, get your all your wellness visits, and then to save smart. So we will focus today on the save smart component, but I would contend all of these things together enable someone to move up the economic ladder. The healthier they are, the more likely they are to be able to find employment and then retain that employment. So My Health Pays, like I said, it can be videos, it can be challenges like a walking challenge, or it can be claims-based. So we can see that you went for your primary care wellness visit this year, and you may get a reward for that. The rewards dollars vary. They start with points. Each thing has a different point level, so to speak, and you can actually convert those points into cash. So every 10 points converts to $1, and you can earn up to $500 worth of incentives annually. If you convert it to dollars, it's really like a prepaid Visa card, so to speak. You can then use that to pay things like co-pays, deductibles, if you had them in your plan. Our home plans have co-pays only, so they could use it to pay that. They can also use it to pay their utility bills if they choose to do that. Also, transportation, childcare. So all the things that we know to be barriers today in someone being able to attain work, especially in our rural areas. My Health Pays can help with that as well. They earn the rewards and they can use those rewards to help them with those things. Next slide. As I said today, we're really focused on the Save Smart component of My Health Pays. And I've listed here just a few of the things that the educational videos, I think there were about 60 total items in 2022. But this is just a look at some of the areas in the videos and how we are sharing information with individuals to help them better spend their dollars. Ways to save energy, how to get out of debt, how to cut expenses, how to improve their savings, couponing, all those kinds of things. So just ways to help their dollars go further. Next slide. This is just a little bit of an example of how we educate our individuals about My Health Pays. So we're constantly reminding folks that they have this benefit available to them in their program, and it's real money. I think a lot of times folks think it might be a little too good to be true sometimes. Are you really going to give me cash to spend? So we try to educate them that this is real. This is real cash. You can either use it on our online store, or you can convert it to dollars to spend to help you with those expenses. We have social media campaigns. We put it in our mailers. We educate continually about this program. Next slide. This is just the same information that Nell just shared, just on the amount of dollars we paid out in 2022 for the Save Smart area of our My Health Pays program. $289,000 associated with these areas. I will say, I think our total payout in 22 is somewhere around 1.2 million. If you were to look at all the components of My Health Pays. And then last page, please, is really about our community health fairs and some partnerships we are working on with the Workforce Development Board. We're out in the community. In 2022, we really started to ramp that back up. That had pretty much been shut down, unfortunately, in 2020 and 2021. But in 22, we started to get back out there. We host community health fairs across the state. And when we do those, we bring on-site vendors from the local community, as well as even maybe out of Little Rock, to bring services to encourage members to come out. These are community health fairs. They're not just for our members. We do invite our members specifically to come out, but we also invite any member in the community to participate in these health fairs. And just a few of the services they may receive while they're there. They may get a COVID-19 vaccine or some BMI checks. They do cholesterol, blood pressure screenings, workforce assistance that we incorporated in 2022 with the workforce partnership that we have to have them out at our community events, tabling, and then also some mental health awareness resources. We as well are partnering with the workforce group. So when they're out in the community, we also table with them just to help attendees with some hands-on assistance in job searching, resumes, even Centene as an employer. We have a lot of job openings as well. A lot of those are remote positions, so it kind of takes transportation out of play if you can secure now which is more available, I think, today than ever, just working from home and remote jobs. So that's just a little bit about our My Health Pays. I'm sure in future you'll hear even more about that as we expand out to look at the other areas that we support with My Health Pays, and then continue to build just our partnerships in the communities to bring more and more resources to our homes members and community members as well.
Thank you very much. I think we'll now go to Matthew Venata.
Thanks, Nell. Appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity and working with DHS closely on developing this. And similar to Centene, our approach around this was to combine it with our larger reward program. But back in 2021, when we were thinking through how we wanted to approach this particular program, the Department of Workforce Services had met with us, and we decided that that was something that was an existing program that we wanted to get behind and back, and that's what we saw value in. That we did want to sort of shoot for the moon in a lot of ways with our reward program, because we wanted to maximize what we felt like what would benefit our members the most in terms of their economic journey and help them achieve those results. So we didn't get to where we wanted to go, and we understand that that's still a journey. We're learning through those various things that we've taken from 2022 and now into 2023 in terms of how we can better promote that, how we can better get that education there in terms of the value of this program and what it can bring to them in terms of bridging their gaps and putting them in a better position to improve their employment or allow them to get a job that they don't currently have. But the Arkansas Career Readiness Certificate is a wonderful program. It touches especially very vulnerable parts of our state and the vast majority of our state, but specifically in areas that oftentimes have a very high need for additional education and opportunities. It really focuses on three key areas: applied math, workplace development, and graphic literacy, all foundational aspects of both education and financial literacy that will, again, allow our members to give themselves a better foot in the door in terms of their economic growth. So that was really our plan and our approach to get that to our members and develop that more for 2022. Next slide, please. We are continuing to offer that for our members in 2023. In addition to that, we are also offering a new program around educational training and continue education. So this is a little broader than that one. That program still exists. We still very much promote that, and we still feel like that's sort of the big ticket item, if you will, in terms of that growth that our members can experience through this. This will reward our members for really a much more broader spectrum of education and or continuing education. So it could be they're working towards their GED. It could be that they are going back and trying to get some high school equivalency credits, or they're working towards a trade. Maybe they were looking to be a welder or something like that. Any of those things would check that box, if you will, to earn that reward for those members. Really, the point is to encourage them to continue through that process, that maturation of their learning and education. It was said our education really never stops, and that's absolutely true. We do on-the-job training all the time. Our point is to apply that same learnings to our members and saying that really never stops. So let's figure out a way to reward you and encourage you to continue on that process to help you on your economic journey. And that's really what our engagement has been. Like I said, we will continue to take our learnings and see what is moving the needle, what is not moving the needle, what changes we need to make in order to better engage our members in terms of what these programs are, as well as what other educational efforts are throughout the state. I think the fact that we are in those various communities throughout the state, we've got a dedicated medical director that focuses on social and economic development initiatives for us. That partnership there really extends beyond what we do from a rewards perspective, and really is the tenet of what we try to do beyond just our normal, I guess you would say, day-to-day jobs of being a health insurance carrier, but really that broader spectrum of taking care of our members from A to Z, and understanding that this is a vulnerable population and that we really have to do more for them in order to help get them and meet the needs of the program. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Kim and Matthew, thank you very much for being here today and for talking about some of the incentives. I know this is new territory, as Dennis alluded to, for insurance companies, but we do appreciate what you've provided and what you're, with an eye towards improving. Appreciate that. Nell?
Yes, I just, I appreciate both for coming and for sharing all the things that you guys are doing, and really hope that we work together to build on what we're doing with Life 360 Home, and hopefully with opportunities for success. You guys are an integral player to all of that, and it's fun branching out into new territories. So I just want to remind everyone that we've got an ARHOME public forum that's going to be following this meeting. This is a requirement of CMS. It's a requirement of our waiver that we do an annual public forum. We are going to just be providing an overview. Some of the things that we just talked about will be included in that public forum. You are welcome to stay and listen in. It will be on a different Zoom link. So if you're want to join in and you're on Zoom, it's going to be on a different Zoom link. But you guys are welcome to stay for that, or leave if you so choose. Again, some of it will be a repeat of what you've just heard. Our next meeting is going to be in September. We don't have a date or location yet, but that we'll get that to you as soon as possible. And during that meeting, we're planning to talk about the results of the 2022 health measures. So for example, the percentage of women 50 or older who received a mammogram. We've got calculations for how each carrier has done with those metrics, and how the state as a whole has done. And those results will be presented in September. We will also include the results of the QHP health incentives. So you heard today the incentives that they introduced for economic independence. In September, you'll hear the incentives that they used to improve their health outcome measures. But that's all I've got for today. I'll leave it to you, Secretary Putman.
And I will just, if there are any questions or comments, I mean, that's a lot of information that we covered in, somewhat of a short period of time, but there's a lot of work going on to really connect individuals with opportunities and improve both health and economic independence. So any questions from anybody around the table? Yes, we will make sure everyone has the PowerPoints. And they're usually posted on our website too, following these meetings. Okay, if there are no questions, then you are welcome to stay. As Nell mentioned, for the public forum, we need 5 minutes in between meetings to reset the Zoom and get everything started for the forum. And again, appreciate the work that's being done. Dennis, Nell, Elizabeth, everybody who's worked hard on these initiatives. And we appreciate our partners, Centene and Blue Cross Blue Shield, being here today. So, and thank you to everyone who is here. Appreciate it.
Thank
See you
you.
in September.
Recording stopped.